What's up, everybody in Chiefs Kingdom? Another show with Caleb and Quentin here on Chiefs Focus First and 10. What's up, guys?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. What about you, Quentin?
Yeah, it's football season, so
Football season.
the bar's pretty high for it to not be a pretty bad week.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess it depends on if you're listening to PFF or not. Yeah. So they now they got Mahomes ranked 12th. So whatever. But anyway, there was some talk. I want to get into this really quick. A rumor going around that didn't end up being a rumor about Eric Bieniemy interviewing with Nebraska. He did interview with Nebraska. I want to make that clear. It was about a 4-hour interview. Whether he gets the job or doesn't, I give it a 50-50, but I do know for a fact that he did interview with them. I hope he does get the job, but I don't know if that's selfish reasons or I just hope he gets the job. I don't know which way to turn with that one, but it was an interview. Let's just see what turns out with it. But at this point, just wanted to make that clear that he did have an interview with them. Also, one other thing I want to bring up is Aaron Judge. Unbelievable year. He's got 14 games left and he's already at 60 home runs. That's phenomenal. He's tied with Babe Ruth right now in home runs. And that's there's only 2 people in the American League well, 3, I guess, technically, that have ever hit 60. And it was Babe Ruth, Sayers. You're talking about guys that played, in the 20s and 30s, and then Judge. So I want to give him a shout out because being an old baseball guy, that is a hard thing to do, regardless of who you are. And at 30 years old, to be able to pull off what he's pulled off this year and still have 14 games left, and he's playing right now, actually. Yankees are getting ready to clinch another playoff berth for the 7 millionth.
What's that like?
Yeah. And
Can't even get one.
Yeah.
You and far between over here.
Yeah. So well, that kind of goes to show you, even when I played low market teams, it's funny because after I quit playing, I used to say the Royals were the farm team for the rest of the major leagues.
All right, you don't got to come at me like that.
Well, we were, because honestly, think about all the players that we cultivated and ended up going somewhere else for giant contracts. It's happened year in, year out. Well, we can't keep them because of the money, and it just is what it is. So, I mean, they're farm guys. Look, I'm sorry, but they're guys that have come up from AAA are have a better batting average than half the Royals do. So it just kind of shows you what money will do when you're loaded, and you can buy whoever you want to buy and pay for whoever you want to pay for. They have unlimited funds out there. There's only a few teams in the league that can say that. So, but he turned down a giant contract. It was $431 million for 7 years.
And he bet on himself, and there's NFL players that do that all the time.
Yeah.
Right now there's that linebacker in Chicago. I don't remember his name.
Roquan Smith.
Yeah, Roquan Smith, that's doing that right now. Lamar Jackson has done that for the past couple of years.
Yep.
There are NFL players that Orlando Brown is doing that for Kansas City. There are some guys that they haven't gotten the deal that they wanted, and they're gonna bet on themselves to make that. That's what Judge did. So that's not just a baseball thing. That's a sports thing. And, nothing but respect to a guy that can get a contract, look at a huge contract and say, no, I'm worth even more than that. And then move forward and have a record-breaking season. That's happened in the NFL. So kudos to guys that want to do that. We look at professional sports players, and it's like, I've done this in the past, where it's like, how can you turn down that contract? That's an amazing deal. When a wide receiver, linebacker, whatever, is offered $20 million a year and they say no and go into the last year of their contract, and then they break a record, become all pro, become an MVP, whatever it may be. And you look at me at the end of the year and you're like, man, you're right. You weren't worth, what they were offered. You're worth even more than that. So anybody that has the guts to be able to do that, kudos to you, because I don't know if I
Yeah.
would be able to.
That's true. That
Well,
stuff
you
is
know,
hard.
he said he wanted to do it as a Yankee, and he really wants to stay with them. So we'll see what happens at the end of the season. But I don't think they're going to let him go. I mean, it'd be hard pressed to see the Yankees let a talent like that go. But you know, they kept A-Rod and everybody else for all that time, and they weren't the player. So
If we're gonna talk a little baseball here, you know, and this is Chiefs focus, so I'll just make this quick. You know, Dayton Moore was released he was fired by the Royals.
yes, he was.
You know, he had been with the team for 17 years, and I know like 14 of his 17 years they had been losing records since then, and many of those were 100 lost seasons.
Yeah.
But I would like to say that Dayton Moore brought me and this city some of the most exciting baseball that I may ever live in my entire life, in 14 and especially 15, because during the 2015 years, the Royals were the best team in baseball from the first pitch that was thrown.
Yeah.
And to see the hunt for Blue October, the team that was put together, Dayton Moore put a team together that changed baseball. And I think sometimes we forget that with shortening the game by having a mediocre or above average pitcher that would get you through 6 innings, and to have HDH and to have the bullpen that revolutionized baseball. It really did.
Bullpen was something else.
Anybody that tells you different, the Royals were the first ones to do that. They changed baseball forever in 2014 and 15. We went from a team that was below 500 at the All-Star break in 14, made it to Game 7, and then won it in 15. So it's a bittersweet day because, you know, we know that the Royals need to move in a different direction, but, you know, Dayton Moore brought something into my life. We literally had what we call the Blue Snow Day in my school district, where class was canceled. School was canceled. The entire school district got the day off because of the Royals parade. Yeah. That's how big of a deal it was in Kansas City, because they knew so many kids were going to go downtown. And there's that picture of Union Station where you can't see the grass, you can't see the pavement, you can't see anything, but it looks like the ocean. Yeah. So I want to just give a shout out to Dayton Moore. I will always have respect for the work that you did. And it's a bittersweet week here in Kansas City because of that. So I know this is Chiefs focus, but it's Kansas City related. And I wanted to give Dayton Moore a shout out for the work that he did. And I hope nothing but the best for him and the Royals moving forward.
Cool. Yep. He did a hell of a job. I mean, there was no doubt about that. Well, moving forward, it looks like there's been a few injuries this last couple of days, a few season-ending injuries, a few games suspension, or a few games of players being suspended. We talked a little bit about this on Tuesday with the Willie Gay situation, and then the Mike Evans situation, and I think another player. Oh, by the way, if everybody didn't know, can't think of his name right now. Plays for the Chargers. Got fined $12,000 for the body slam on Travis Kelce.
Derwin James.
Yeah, Derwin James. So I mean, of course, he didn't get a suspension like they kind of assumed he was going to, but it is what it is. I kind of like Kelsey's answer on his podcast. You know, it was like, you know, I knew going into the game that he was a beast. And, you know, when he started to pick me up, it was him and his brother. They do that podcast. And he said, man, this is embarrassing. Guy my size, big man like I am, getting body slammed like this. But he said he's a beast. He's a hell of a player. He's a monster. And he didn't have any ill will towards him. And in fact, apparently he asked him after he did it, he said, you good, bro? And he said, yeah, I'm good. But Kelce braced himself for the land because he knew it was coming. So I guess regardless, it is what it is. Some people think it's petty because of the call or the fine. Some people thought it was petty if he was to get suspended. All I do is think back to L'Jarius Sneed last year and got penalized and fined for about 25% of what happened to Kelce. So it is what it is. We just have to look past it and move forward. One thing I was going to ask you guys, what do you think or who do you think is going to fill the shoes for Willie Gay right now?
From what it's looking like, it's gonna be what's his name? Oh wow, his name is leaving my head.
Leo Chanel.
Not Chanel. No, it's another guy. No, Darius. Darius Harris.
Harris. Yeah.
From what I was been reading, it looks like he's gonna possibly have the green dot. I know he's started a couple games for the Chiefs and has done some good things, a couple forced fumbles here and there. So look, he's gonna get up Gacy getting the green dot.
What do you mean
I mean, sorry, not the green dot.
Oh,
I mean, sorry, not the green dot. He's gonna get the starting role probably. Looks like. Now they're probably
okay.
gonna mix in Chanel as well, but it looks like that's kind of what they're gonna be going towards.
yeah. Well, I think I heard the same, and I don't know if that's a ploy or if it's real. Harris is no joke. He can play really well. I would like to. I mean, given the fact that it is the Colts, this is a sleeper. I mean, that the Colts are a sleeper team, no matter what you want to, how you want to look at it. They're the team that can sneak up on you and beat you if you're not really prepared. So, for everybody out there that thinks this is going to be a slam dunk, it may not be. It may be a little tougher game than we expect. Now, granted, they don't have the greatest offense, but they do have somewhat of a defense. So, we'll just have to see how that plays out. But I guess I wouldn't sleep on the Colts. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't sleep on any team in the NFL, but I definitely wouldn't.
Oh no, the
sleep on
Colts.
the
I mean,
Colts.
this is one of those games where the Chiefs don't be their A game, they're gonna lose. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, you're dealing with a team that has a really good running game and a good offensive line. So Sac Nation has to show up. And the offense can't take any plays off. They have to get a lead, they gotta take it and keep going and going and going like they did against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this game will be out of their hands because we've all seen the Chiefs collapse in the Lucas Oil Stadium. The last time we see was that 2013 playoff game. I mean, we have some terrible memories playing there, honestly. Some upsets.
Well, the one good thing that's coming out of it is Mahomes is 7-0 in a dome. And I think he's got I don't remember his touch. I think it was 28 touchdowns to 2 interceptions or something like that in a dome in his career. So, I don't think we're going to lose, but I still want to be I'm erring on the side of caution a little bit, just given the fact that they could be that, that sneaker team that comes in and decides they want to put on a show. So we have to be ready for them. What do you think, Quentin?
I think this game is going to be somewhere in between the Chargers and the Arizona game, where the Arizona game was easy peasy lemon squeezy as a fan watching it. As soon as we scored those first 2 touchdowns, I was like, wrap it up. It's all stats from here on out. This is it. And I was feeling good about that. I think I said, even at the time, that was the easiest Chiefs games I've ever watched as a fan. Now, the Chargers game, on the flip side, was practically the exact opposite, which I also said during the time that some hairs were going to come out of the top of my head, possibly some grays showing up just because of how stressful that game was. So I think this is going to be sort of an in-between. There's a reason this game is a noon game. The NFL doesn't expect this game to be very competitive. It doesn't expect this game to grab a lot of outside attention. With that being said, I know the Colts are 0-2. No, excuse me, 0-1-1.
Yeah,
I give my opinion on ties later. So, but
I mean, it might as well be 1-2 in my opinion, but
they're winless regardless. They have faced the lowly Texans and the lowly Jaguars. So the fact that they don't have a win on their record, really does say enough about this team. However, they still have talent on that team. They should have a good offensive line. They have the leading rushing back from last year and Jonathan Taylor. Go my fantasy football team.
Yeah.
And this team has talent on the defensive side too. So, we could call those first 2 games flukes. We know that the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville in 8 years, which is crazy to think about. And, that first game of the year against a divisional opponent is always, iffy, no matter who you are and who you're facing. I do expect the Chiefs to win this game. And I don't know. It's just, I think that the spread for this game, at least when I saw earlier today, this could have changed, was 6.5.
think it
in
went to
terms of
7.5.
Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
So-
it went to 7.5, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so the odds, the betting odds, Vegas says the Chiefs are going to win a touchdown or more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Here's the way I think this game's going to go. Our favorite Raiders defensive coordinator and Gus Bradley is now the defensive coordinator for the Colts. And I pulled up some stats because I'm the stats guy from last year. Last year, we beat the Raiders 48-9 and 41-14. Now, a lot of that was because despite the rest of the NFL playing a cover 2 shell against us, Gus Bradley did not do that. He continued to play his zone scheme. And if you don't know, Gus Bradley was one of the guys that came up with the Legion of Boom style up in Seattle, that heavy zone style defense that was really aggressive on the quarterback and left their safeties and corners sort of as their corners specifically in zones out on the outside.
Yeah.
And their safeties were playing sort of either in the middle as that robber role, or they're deep. They have like one single deep safety. So no matter who you were in terms of the defensive backs, even though you weren't in strict man coverage, you were still sort of on an island. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Does that? Okay.
Yeah.
Gus Bradley was the guy. He was the brainchild of that sort of came up with it. And he continued to run that role despite not having the same defense in Vegas. And presumably he's running that. I haven't watched Colts film. I'm going to be honest. I haven't watched Colts film, but I'm going to assume he's continued to run that defense in Indianapolis. And so if they do that, I expect the Chiefs to come out hot because Patrick Mahomes blows those sort of defenses out of the water onto the sand and leaving them bacon. Okay.
Yeah.
He completely just defeats those kinds of defenses. So I expect if that's the sort of defense we see, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have any problems.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's
What do
fair.
you think, Caleb?
Hey, if they end up going out like that, I'd be happy because the Chiefs will take advantage of it. I think the Colts, this can be an interesting game because you're gonna have a team that hasn't beaten, who has lost to 2 teams that are not good at all. And when I look at it at the end of the day, sorry, the Chiefs, they're good, but this is a trap game. If they lose this game, all the naysayers are going to come out and be like, oh, the Chiefs weren't that good. See, we told you everything. I think the Chiefs should win this game. And if they win by a touchdown, great. If they win by a field goal, great. But what I'm concerned with are the right play calls going to be made. Is the right defensive players going to be in? Things like that. Because ultimately, that will take care of itself at the end of the day. I mean, the Colts have a pretty decent defense with DeForest Buckner. Stephon Gilmore's over there on the cornerback side. And also, I don't know, is Darius Leonard playing or is he still injured?
Last I heard he was still injured. I don't know right
Okay.
now.
But regardless, they have a lot of good pieces on this team, on the Colts team. So they need to figure out what they're going to do because if they end up losing a game to this Colts team, that's not going to be good for the success because this is a AFC game. If you win this game and say another AFC opponent like the Bills play them, they lose, that's better for the Chiefs at the end of the day. You have to win these games like this. AFC games. NFC games, I'm not worried about. AFC games is what I'm talking about.
So Michael Pittman and Leonard, they did not practice today on Thursday, but the team has not made an official call as to whether or not they will play on Sunday.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, here's a little interesting stat for you. Patrick Mahomes, 2018, week 1 and 2, 2-0, 69.1 completion percentage, 582 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. 2022, week 1 and 2, 2-0, 73.0 completion percentage, 595 passing yards, and 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. So the last time I checked, when Mahomes starts off with numbers like that and actually improves on them as far as completion percentage and yards, he was an MVP and went to the Super Bowl and won it. So, or went to the AFC Championship game and barely lost. But and then I think in 19 he started off fairly hot, and then they had that little cold streak there because of the defense, but picked it back up and won out. So I have a weird feeling going into this that I've had a weird feeling this whole season that we're a lot better than people are giving us credit for. And we've kind of proven that to a degree. I don't see the Colts beating us, but again, I still think it might be a little closer game. What are you guys thinking about? What do you guys think about the Chiefs signing Benton Whitley?
In Veach, we trust.
Yeah.
In Beach we trust.
That's as simple as I can say it. You know,
My problem with this is the only problem that I have with it is that, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really make too much of a difference. I want to know, I mean, in perspective of a linebacker's concern, but I want to know where Danny Shelton is, and I've tried to get a couple of calls in to find out why he is, if he's still injured or what the situation is. All I know is that if you put him on the field with Chris Jones, that is an absolute nightmare for any offense in the league. I don't know what's going on. In fact, somebody asked me a question the other day. They said, "Do you know if he's in the doghouse for some reason?" I don't know.
With
that
Spags, nothing surprises me at this
Yeah,
point, honestly.
exactly.
true.
I
That
haven't
stuff
heard that he
irritates me
was,
so much.
but again, what I heard was he had an injury and he was only going to be out a week or two, and they didn't want to put him on injury reserve because that was a guaranteed 4 weeks. And so we're going into week 3 and we've yet to hear his name. So I don't know what the situation is with that, but I really want to see him on the field because he is going to be a terror. I think, signing Benton is more of a depth situation than anything else, given the fact that we just lost a linebacker for 4 games for no reason. So it is what it is. I mean, I think it's more of a depth thing than anything else. I don't think you're going to see, I don't think you're going to see much of him if everybody else is playing well. He may come in just as a, for fresh legs, in a couple rotations, but I don't think he's going to be like anything of the sorts of a starter or having a lot of snaps. In fact, I don't even know if he'd be ready for that yet, but I mean, not football shape, but just knowing the schemes and things like that. They snagged him off the Rams practice squad. So it kind of makes me wonder why he was on the practice squad with the Rams anyway, with the way they run their defense. But I don't know if they thought maybe he needed to get a little more acclimated to their style of defense, or if he just wasn't playing up to par. I don't know. But I think it's okay to have him. I still want to, they had a spot to fill, they filled it, and that's kind of the end of that. I think it's probably a good thing for us, just to have that extra depth and that body to fill a spot. So we'll just have to see what happens. You guys got any news that you want to talk about?
I just wanted to hit on the Ben Whitley signing. We know Mike Dana got a calf injury earlier against the Chargers, and so he didn't practice on Wednesday. And so when you have that, you have Gay out for 4 weeks. You just want to make sure that you have enough bodies in there. This might be a guy where Bentley starts to take special team snaps, and then either the linebacker that was taking special team snaps gets bumped up to start taking actual defensive roles. It could just be he's on the practice squad just so they have he eventually makes it onto the practice squad after the 4 weeks are over. So this it probably isn't going to be very significant. The only time we may even realize that he is on the roster is if he has some sort of like fumble recovery,
Yeah, that's true.
We probably won't even notice this as Chiefs fans on the field.
Yeah.
It's important to keep up with roster moves, but
so let me rephrase something really quick. He's 6-0 in domes, 339.2 passing yards a game, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 100.6 passer rating. Just so you guys know, for Mahomes. I wanted to get that correct. I had to make sure I was right on those numbers. But
you want to hear some more crazy stats about Patrick Mahomes?
Sure.
So James Palmer tweeted this out earlier today, and I screenshotted it because I wanted to talk about this. So James Palmer tweeted out Patrick Mahomes' stats in September are the best by any quarterback in the month of September since the 1970 merger, with a minimum of 10 quarterback starts in that month over their career. His win-loss record, 13-2, ranked numero uno. Pass yards per game, 322.6. Pass yards per attempt, 8.7. Passing touchdowns, interception ratio, 48-3. And passer rating is 122.3. All of those are first since 1970 post-merger. So that right there should say it all. Yeah. Because every time you look at a Patrick Mahomes stat, it's always just like, how is he that good?
Yeah. He does it every week. It's crazy because he literally breaks records that you don't see other quarterbacks break who are supposed to be at the top, who are the top of the game right now.
Yeah. All your elites out there aren't breaking records every week. I mean, we talked about this over and over again, but he broke at least one record in every game in 2018. He broke a record in every game in 2019. He broke 3 records in the playoffs and the Super Bowl by his comeback wins and touchdowns. You just can't put a number on his game. You can't put your finger on it. That's for sure. I've never seen anyone that can not only fight back from adversity, play with injured players, missing players, no O-line, no defense, and still come out on top. And that's just proof in the pudding that he is hands down better than everybody else in the league.
Okay.
And when you look at some of these stats, I mean, this PFF is just driving me crazy. You know, they put out the O-line stats and they had Joe Thuney and
Creed
Humphrey on there. No, was it Creed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, but they didn't have Trey Smith, which was strange. But when I looked at the numbers for a couple of the other ones that they had on there, they weren't anywhere near the numbers of Trey Smith, Orlando Brown. As a whole, we are the number 1 offensive line in the league, but at least they put a couple of our players on there. So it tells me that as much as it sucks, you just can't rely on PFF because their numbers are so skewed. Looking at the quarterback rankings and then looking at, O-line stats or D-line stats or, secondary stats or whatever the case may be, running wide receivers. You can't put any faith into their numbers because they are all skewed, no matter how you look at it. When they pulled up the Patrick Mahomes thing, I pulled up 5 different metrics and all of them had him at number 1 in the league after week 2. Had him number 1. And they ranked him, 12th? Yeah, 12th, I think. 11th or 12th. They put him behind Geno Smith. They put him behind everybody. So
behind Geno Smith?
Yes.
Geno Smith.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah,
okay, that's
behind Geno Smith.
Okay.
So, and he even actually made mention of it in the press conference. He said, PFF probably won't like me, but it is what it is. Because of that game that he had against the Chargers. I mean, I didn't think there was anything wrong with this game. I mean,
it wasn't the 5 touchdowns, 360 yards, no interceptions, maybe a rushing TD added in there.
Yeah.
He didn't have one of those games.
Well, I mean, if he has an above average game at 235 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever he had, 2 or 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, and a good passer rating. And then you have quarterbacks out there that may have thrown for 250 yards, but had 5 interceptions and no touchdowns or 1 touchdown. And their completion percentage was like in the 30s. I don't know what you're really trying to prove by saying that he's worse than them. I just don't get it. Brady played a team that historically has beaten him every year since he's been with the Bucs. And they have him ranked 3rd. So
I'll be honest, this game wasn't the best either.
No, it was definitely not. I mean,
he played like butt cheeks.
He did.
He did not play good at all.
You can see the difference. You can really see the age wearing on him. And it's crazy because during that last game, he even made mention on the sidelines, and somebody caught it on film that he doesn't have a 25-year-old arm anymore. And, he makes these comments, these off the wall comments that you've never heard Brady make before about not really having that drive and energy. And I know that's a lot has to do with his marital issues. And I'm sure he's in, he's probably looking at the rest of the league going, God, I am not that good anymore. I mean, I probably should have went ahead and stayed retired. I'm not who I used to be. If it wasn't for the defense, and then really it wasn't even so much of the defense as it was Jameson just screwing the pooch like he always does. They wouldn't have won that game. I mean, Brady couldn't score. It was a 3-point game. And it was 3-0 for the longest time, Saints up, and then ended up being 3-3, 6-3. It was just a weird game all the way around. I mean, I don't think Brady threw his first touchdown until the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
The fourth quarter.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, I know that they wanted him to go out in style, and I know they wanted him to go out looking like a champ. But when every other matrix shows him, ranked 17th or 18th or 19th,
Mm-hmm.
and then PFS says, "Oh, he's third." Third to who? I mean, I don't get it.
To the other 45-year-old quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's what they're playing. Maybe that's part of what they're using as a matrix is, oh, he's 45 and he still threw touchdowns. Well, I mean, there's guys out there that played until they were 47, 49. So if I remember one quarterback back in the 70s,
I remember.
I think he played until he was 49.
Okay.
Then Dave Craig, was it Dave Craig? He played until he was 46 or 47. Now he was a backup then, but he started games at that point. He wasn't the starter, but he did start some games when people were injured. So there's quarterbacks out there that had played longer, but they still had somewhat of a successful career and still an arm behind him. I can't remember that guy's name right now that played until he was like 47 or 49. Darn, I don't know why his name's slipping my mind right now. I can see his face. I just can't remember his name. Maybe you can find it, Quentin, but you're the stats guy.
Stats guy.
But it's just, it's you can just tell how biased it is and how things have really changed this year in the NFL as far as the fines.
Are you talking about
down.
George Blanda?
George Blanda. Yeah. He played forever. I mean, the guy
was 48.
48.
Wow. 48.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Brady's not getting to 48. I'll tell you that.
I don't even know he's going to last through 45. So, I mean,
He'll finish this year. I think the only reason that he is playing this year is because like 4 years ago, he said he was going to play until he's 45. And he's so stubborn that he was like, I'm playing until I'm 45. And then there's a small part of him that thinks that he could get back to another Super Bowl. But here's the thing, based on what his personality seems to be, if he were to win, I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just saying hypothetically, in a really bad hypothetical world, if Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl again this year, I don't think he could retire, because I think the way his mind is set up is that he would say, well, if I won it this year, I could win it next year. And so he would want to come back. I think that's just the way his brain is wired. So
very egotistical, that's for sure.
I don't think he could do the Peyton Manning, John Elway out where they go out on top. I think he has to be sort of like beaten down into like, I can't do this anymore. And I don't think Tom Brady is ever going to lose the arm strength. I think it's going to be a mobility issue and just like, I can't recover from the hits anymore.
Yeah.
Sort of like, that's why there was that news that came out that he was supposed to get Wednesdays off to sort of recover.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way Peyton Manning.
So
I think that's the only way that he would have to get off. It won't be the Peyton Manning or John Elway or any other. I guess Andrew Whitworth also retired from the Rams last year, the like 40-year-old tackle from the the Rams.
And
You know,
still
he
had
also went out
had
on
a
top.
breakout year. I mean, had a breakout year too. He had a hell of a year.
Oh yeah. He was he was one of the best in the league, and then
Yeah.
he, called it good after he got his ring. So there are plenty of players that aren't quarterbacks that
Man,
have.
he walked off the field looking like Santa Claus. I mean, he was gray, he was grayer than I am. So, yeah, I mean, he looked old, but he played like he was 25. So, there's a huge difference between him and Brady. One thing I noticed during that Bucks game, I watched some of Brady's throws, and you could tell that he didn't have the zip on him that he's used to. I mean, he's never had the strongest arm in the league, that's for sure. But he was more accurate with the shorter, even 30, 40-yard passes. He was really accurate. He doesn't seem to have the zip on the ball. He threw a lot of ducks. There was a lot of fluttering passes. There wasn't so much of a spiral to him anymore. I just don't know that he has what it takes anymore. And I tell you what, he has lost so much weight. He's skinnier this year than he was last year. And I didn't know if you can get him. I mean, it's almost like he's bulimic. And I honestly, I didn't think he'd get any skinnier than he was. But when he walks out on the field, it's like 2 sticks in the head. I mean, I don't know what else to say. He just looks terrible.
No, I agree with you. He does look very skinny, and that was one thing. That's like, can his body keep up with the punishment? Because his offensive line is not in a good state. He doesn't have really good any offensive weapons around him, and the defense is the only reason why they're getting opportunities to win the game. So if he gets hit pretty bad, we could see to where he could just be like, I'm done because of the hits.
Yeah,
that's when, because his team is honestly all around him is breaking off piece by piece by piece.
Yeah.
They may make it to the Super Bowl because I'm telling you right now, the NFC is not good. They may make it to the Super Bowl, but I don't know if they can win it.
Well, I tell you,
Eagles all the way. It's gonna be the Kelsey Bowl. That's what it's gonna be. We're gonna have the Kelsey Center and the Kelsey tight end. We got the Kelsey Bowl coming along.
And you know what? Jalen Hurts has come on like wildfire this year. He's finally got some weapons. He's got his accuracy down. He threw a couple of deep bombs. He looks way better than he did last year. And, I more power to him. The one thing that I will say is that San Francisco actually took a step up because Jimmy G is now starting the rest of the season.
What a crazy situation. I don't know if there's another time in my life where you could even have the discussion that a team got better because their starting quarterback got injured.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now, that whole situation over there in San Francisco, it's been a cluster. You can fill in the next word.
Yeah.
And what a crazy situation. And then that it's been over there. The NFC, unlike the AFC, is so old at the quarterback position and has so little young talent over there. There is so much over here in the AFC. No matter what you think about them, you can say that you can see that they have a chance to get into the playoffs and take their team there. The Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's just, you keep talking about over and over and over again. It seems like every single division has more than one. I mean, even the AFC South has Trevor Lawrence, who was, a great prospect. And if he didn't have Urban Meyer, probably the worst head coach, maybe only second to Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
Coming in, we would be talking about Trevor Lawrence different. But the NFC doesn't have anything close to that. They've got the aging Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. So they don't have that same talent. It's just crazy. It's a crazy NFL.
It really is. I look at, some of their guys, they do have, some good talent. When you look at Kyler Murray, he's a good quarterback at a young age. Jalen Hurts. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know what's going to happen to him, but we'll just have to see how that goes. Now, the one thing I will say is that we might see a change of the guard with the Saints. I think Mariota is going to probably take that starting position because I think he's the backup, if I'm not mistaken, to Jameis Winston.
Marcus Mariota's in Atlanta.
Oh, that's right. He's in Atlanta. Who's the backup in the Saints? Is it Luck. Who is it?
It's Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton. That's right. We talked about this on the other show. Andy Dalton may end up taking that spot because I don't know. Jameis just does not look good.
He also has 4 fractures in 4 of his vertebrae, 4 fractures in his back.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
I don't know how it's gonna work out for him.
Well, I'd like to see what happens with what they end up deciding to do. Is Andy Dalton the answer? No. I mean, he's
They
not.
need to draft a future QB. That's what they need to do.
Yeah. I mean, they could have picked one up during the season, but they had a really bad cap situation too. So I don't know that would help. But let me think now. I always get Atlanta and the Saints confused. But so the Saints have Mariota and who ended up starting for them?
The Saints have 30 for 30 Jameis Winston.
No, I'm talking about Atlanta.
And Atlanta has the guy they drafted plus Marcus Mariota.
Okay. So I know Drew Luck was in, or Drew, yeah, he was in, or no, was it Drew Luck?
Drew
No,
Lock is in Seattle.
It was Josh Rosen that was in the mix.
Josh Rosen has been on about half the NFL teams at this point in his career.
Yeah, he was in the mix.
I think he's literally been on 7 teams if you include practice squads.
Yeah.
Wow, he's actually been like around the league. He's really following the Fitzpatrick timeline there.
Sad part is Fitzpatrick actually played well. Rosen, I think, just didn't get a good shot at the beginning, and that's
how he's ended up on so many practice squads.
Exactly. But there was a quarterback controversy, I thought, with the Falcons, if I remember right.
I mean, there's opportunity if they keep not doing well, they'll just put in the rookie.
Yeah, they have the rookie. So anytime you have a mediocre starter and a rookie, like you're going to have a quote unquote controversy in your quarterback room because guys want to see, fan bases want to see the future. They want to be able to look at that rookie and say, this is what we got. Now, the only reason that it didn't happen here is because Alex Smith played his best season when Patrick Mahomes was drafted.
Yeah, that and the fact that they wanted him to sit behind Smith, which is a very talented and a very poised quarterback that he could learn from. And they
but if Alex Smith by week 6 was coming out and the offense was anemic, then the Kansas City fan base would have been calling for Patrick Mahomes. That would have happened.
Andy said in an interview a while back saying that when the Chiefs were 5-0 and they went 1-6, he was seriously thinking about putting in Mahomes. He didn't do it, but he was seriously thinking about it because the team was just so much up and down, up and down. One week the offense would be on fire, then one week the offense wouldn't be on fire. Yeah. One week the defense would be like playing like 85 Bears. The next week the defense would be letting everyone score on them. So I mean, that's kind of a bunch of crazy stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of insane. You know, there might be a little quarterback controversy going on in Dallas right now because Dak can't stay. I mean, Prescott can't stay off the injured list or uninjured, I should say. And that kid is 2-0 right now. So I can't think of his name.
Cooper Rush. Best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Undefeated. The only undefeated starter quarterback.
Yeah. So
PFF might have him over Mahomes next week.
Well, he might be.
They might.
But I mean, look, it's that old adage that Caleb and I talk about all the time. He got his contract, and then he just started. Zeke, same way. I mean, he plays. I watched him in that game, and I'm thinking, okay, why did they pay him? And I know why they can't get rid of him now, but why did they ever give him that kind of contract? He is not playing anywhere near to the level of 60% of the running backs in the league that are getting like what, 6-7 million a year.
Because Jared Jones is not a good GM.
Yeah.
He is a very good marketer. He's a very good businessman, but he sucks as a GM.
Yeah.
And that has ruined that team. And that's the end of the story. That if you want to describe the Cowboys over the last literally 30 years, 3 decades, they haven't been to a championship game since before I was born. They haven't been on a significant playoff run since before I was born. You know, just to make some people feel old out there.
You want to know
But
something, Quentin?
thanks a lot.
Quentin, you can't even watch the only way you can watch their highlights from the Super Bowl is on a VHS tape.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And JP, before you say something, I watched Iron Giant and Toy Story on VHS tape. I know what a VHS tape is.
All right, as long as you know what it is. Do you know what a beta tape is?
I see now you're old.
Yeah.
See now you're.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is, man.
That was that was the first VHS tape. So that was like before, right? It didn't last very long, but it was right before the VHS came out, and it was ungodly horrible. But you got to watch something. I mean, it was weird. But anyway, I think about that, and let's put something into perspective really quick. So Troy Aikman had a 13-year career. In his 13 years, including Super Bowls, he threw for 165 touchdowns in a 13-year span, including four Super Bowls that they went to?
3. Two on 3.
Yeah,
I
3.
think.
Less than the amount of championship games that the Bills have blown.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just taking shots at every franchise today.
You might as well. So I mean,
Somebody who has a bingo card just won.
well, I don't have one, not now. But yeah, it's crazy to think that somebody that went to 3 Super Bowls, 13 years in the league, threw 165 touchdowns. Where's Mahomes at right now?
Hold on, how many touchdowns did you say that Aikman has?
165.
Guess where Mahomes is at right now?
I thought it was 181, but I could be wrong.
158. He's gonna break
158,
that
yeah.
this season,
Yeah.
probably next 2-3 games.
Yeah. So, how many does he have, including Super Bowls and playoffs?
That stat's got to include it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that includes it in there.
Okay, I didn't know if it did or didn't. Sometimes they just put regular season in there.
Yeah, he had 50. Well, I don't know. This may be a little bit off because they had only 50 touchdowns in that 1 year.
So maybe it is off.
I do have. He might have actually beaten it if you include playoffs, and he has beaten this record.
Yeah.
I do have some final Chiefs. I do have some actual news before we and my believe it or not. So if you want to run into there.
Yeah, let's go.
So we're into the part of the year where like Pro Bowl Hall of Fame nominees have come out, and there have been some Chiefs players that I believe deserve a shout out. Some of the guys that have gotten into the pool to then get votes to then make it onto the ballot. So the odds are some of these guys won't even make it even onto the ballot to make it in. But we were talking before we got on the show. Priest Holmes is one of those guys. I believe my first article I ever wrote for Chiefs Focus was about Priest Holmes.
I think you're right.
He's one of my favorite players that I never got to watch.
He was great.
He had the best running back span over a 3-year time period for Kansas City, which is crazy.
Think he was a backup with the Ravens.
Yeah. It's his whole story is crazy. I suggest you go read that article because he had a better time span than Jamal Charles, Larry Johnson. I mean, just Christian Okoye. I mean, just an amazing 3-year span for Kansas City. Brian Waters, who is arguably the best, not just tackle, but the best lineman in Chiefs history. He was a part of that offensive line that dominated the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And he was a guard, and the Chiefs moved him to tackle. Just a guy that never seemed to get injured. He was a guy, just a dependable lineman. Jared Allen is another one.
I love Jared
Fourth
Allen.
round. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4th round draft pick. Just a guy that really set the standard in Kansas City in a time that really was anemic on the defensive side. There really wasn't like that guy.
And sadly enough, he would have retired her if it wasn't for the front office regime at the time.
Yeah. His trade, I did give the Chiefs the draft picks to get Jamal Charles.
I know.
Okay.
But it was
yeah. And then the last one is Neil Smith, who I don't care what anybody says. When you have two linebackers or two defensive ends, you're going to help the other. So Neil Smith is one of the reasons why Derek Thomas was Derek Thomas, because you had to also account for Neil Smith. So he's third in sacks behind Tamba and Derek. So you're talking about one of the best pass rushers in Chiefs history.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the names that are on there that I recognize and I think needed a shout out, because all of those guys played a significant part of the Chiefs in the 90s, 2000s, sometimes that were not great in Kansas City, but you had some real studs here in Kansas City. And there are definitely some of those, like Brian Waters is probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, because he really was a great offensive lineman. And it's really hard for linemen to get in just because it's hard to look and see what they've done.
Look
and
at
Neil
Canton
Smith,
and see how many are actually how many O linemen are actually in Canton right
yeah,
Willie's
I
in
think we're
there.
getting better now of recognizing offensive linemen, but still. And then Priest Holmes is just awesome. I don't know what else to say. Priest Holmes, the 3-year time span was just amazing here in Kansas City.
Well,
That
plus what he
3-year
did
time
for
span.
everybody after he retired was something that I think people overshadow, is the fact that he took the time to sit down, analyze, what NFL players do with their money, how their finances are ran. And when he did that, I'll never forget it, because at that time, from 1985 until I think 2009 or 10, when he did that, 78% of NFL players had went broke, bankrupt, divorced, and bankrupt within 5 years. 5 years of retiring from the NFL. And he stepped in and wanted to help them with their finances, get them on the right track, show them what to do with their money. If they got endorsements, don't spend their NFL money, spend their endorsement money. That way they have something to pass down to their families, So
yeah, we hear that term generational wealth, and when guys sign big contracts, but I think one of the biggest people to look at who ran into the problem was Derek Thomas, and that because he had so many people that depended on him.
Yes, he did.
And some, let's call it, questionable decisions.
He had a few, but
questionable decisions that forced him to spend money. I think it was because of his financial decisions, the Chiefs actually started to help their players like go through sort of like money management, financial stuff in Kansas City.
A lot of Derek's, a lot of his early habits were kind of stemmed from a lot of people's early habits that didn't have a great upbringing, didn't have money, didn't have anything, and wondering if they were going to eat the next day. He didn't grow up with his father. So a lot of his habits were similar to a lot of players' habits back then, is that I've never had this, I'm going to enjoy it. And he never really thought about, I can't say he didn't, the first few years, I should say, after his first good contract, he had never really thought about what was going to happen life after football, because he was making such good money for the times. And I'll never forget it. He'd pull up in a new Mercedes, or he'd pull up in something else, and it was like, damn, Derek, where'd you get this at? But he just wanted to enjoy life, because he didn't get to. The one thing that he didn't take into account was what's going to happen when it's gone. And he didn't get a chance to, when he finally got out of that stage, he started to build up a little bit of his wealth, and then what happened. But he had some kids, so he had a lot of kids, and a lot of people say that was, they have their mixed emotions about that. But one thing I will say, and I can put my life on this, is that he took care of every one of his kids. He made sure that every one of his kids were taken care of. He spent time with every one of his kids. He didn't ignore them. He didn't blow them off. He was present. He was a present father. And I know that because I was there. So for anybody to say that he wasn't, they're lying. I mean, straight up lie, because he was definitely there. It was just, look, when you had players in those days that got unlimited amounts of money as signing bonuses, and they couldn't, even when they were in college, they didn't know if they were going to eat, if they're going to be able to pay for college, if they were going to pay for anything. They wanted to make sure their mom was like, he wanted to make sure his mom was taken care of, and he did very well. Women flocked him like none other, that he had never really gotten before. A little bit in college, but nothing like when he got into the NFL and he became a household name. For every team in the NFL, every city in the NFL knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
So when that kind of stuff happens to you, you know, sometimes you just take the bull by the horns and go, woo, you know, this has never happened to me before. I'm enjoying this. And it happened to a lot of guys. I mean, it really did. But I will say that he did a very good job of taking care of his kids and being present. He was a present father. That's the one thing that he always said, that he wanted to have a father. He wanted to be the father that he didn't have. And it wasn't because his dad purposely left. His dad died in a war. So it wasn't, you know, anything that, you know, his dad did on purpose. It was just, he died. So I got to give him that much credit, because he lived life to the fullest. I will tell you that. Derek lived life. Whether it was hanging out in Westport or hanging out at Dixon's Chili or hanging out at Outback Steakhouse, we did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And he enjoyed it. Believe me, he did, you know, and he wasn't, it didn't matter who it was. He was nice to everybody. There was nobody he was rude to, ever. I mean, it didn't make a difference who it was. He didn't think he was above anyone, ever. And that's the one thing that I can honestly say that made me proud, that, you know, that he and I were such good friends, because I watched him do it. I mean, it could be a guy parking a car, it could be a janitor. It didn't matter. Derek would talk to him just like they were anybody else. So, I just thought it was, you know, I had a lot of admiration for that, for him. And a lot of players in those days weren't like that. So, he was, you know, there was a lot of egos that were going around in the 90s. But he was just one of those guys that, you know, he never forgot where he came from, but he always enjoyed what he got, you know. So I guess it was a bittersweet thing for him, you know. He had one son that tried out for the Chiefs a couple of times. We had Darian on the show. He's his oldest son. He's, you know, went from owning a gym, lost it in COVID, works for a construction firm now. Doing well for himself, but he's still, you know, he's on the board of the Third and Long Foundation. So, you know, it kind of is what it is. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant, but it just brings back memories. But yeah, I mean, it happened to a lot of guys. I mean, look what Ryan Leaf did. I mean, the guy goes from getting $36 million to robbing some lady's house for pain pills,
which is like $36 million at that time frame.
Yeah, that was huge.
It was
huge.
A lot of money, because now $36 million now is like the bonus.
Yeah.
For
exactly.
players.
Yeah.
But $36 million at the time was record breaking.
That was huge money. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, when you got a kid coming out of college, it gets handed, you know, 12, 15, $20 million signing bonuses, because they didn't have a cap on what, you know, the signing bonuses were then, to bring them on. I mean, it ruined a lot of people. Andre Rison was one of those people that got run from that. You know, I mean, he got a giant signing bonus. He made an ignorant amount of money. He was still he was never taught the right way. And ended up broke, writing bad checks, borrowing money from people.
I mean, he's turned his life around now, from what I've seen on a video
Yeah,
about him a
he
while
has.
back, but it was rough there for a bit.
Well, I will tell you this, and this I know for a fact because I was in his house, where most people have like behind me, I have helmets and pictures and things of that nature. He had guns on the wall. I mean, he came from a gang family. His brothers were still in gangs while he was in the NFL. He had a table in his living room that was smoked glass, and you open it up and it was full of guns.
Talking about Andre Rison?
Yeah.
Mm.
So a lot of these guys didn't know how to leave that life behind. That was a lot of the problem. And that's why they put a cap on signing bonuses in the NFL, because you weren't helping anybody that came from nothing, and you give them millions of dollars right up front. That's a stupid thing to do with no guidance whatsoever. So I'm kind of glad the NFL went that direction. It's helped, I think, a lot of players, and Priest Holmes, I attribute a lot to him because he really put a lot in place to help players with their money. The Chiefs do a really good job with cultivating players and helping their players with finances and being better people. For, a lot of teams can't say that. So, but with that being said, let's get into your truth or not truth, or what are you calling it now? What was it called? I'm sorry, I'm tired.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm tired,
Yeah,
man.
believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
I just thought this was a good segment. You're
Hey,
gonna
believe it or not, I'm
in here
tired.
this
Okay.
week, and you're gonna stroll in here and calling it the wrong name.
Hey,
It's 8:30, not even 8:30 your time. Okay, you don't got to tell me you're tired.
I've been up since 4. So
I don't want to hear it. That's 6 o'clock my time. That's 6 o'clock my time. I don't want to hear your excuses. It's believe it or not.
All right. Well, let's hear the believe it or.
Okay, believe it or not. George Karlaftis will lead the team in sacks after this week. Will he get the most sacks this week?
Caleb, go.
I'm going to say not, because he's going to have to get 4 sacks this game in order to lead the team, because I think Chris Jones right now is at 3. I think he could get 1, maybe 2, but I don't see him getting 4.
I don't either. I mean, I can see him getting a couple. He's coming into his own, but I don't believe he's going to get 4.
Unless he just goes crazy one week. I mean, hey, that'd be nice.
We saw what Aiden Hutchinson did in Detroit.
How many did he get?
3.
Wow. Okay. Well, you never know. It could happen.
I wanted to put this one in because I wanted to give Karlaftis a shout out, really, and that he's been doing a really good job getting there. He's been getting a lot of pressures. He hasn't just gotten home all the way. But I went on this rant before that pressures, are significant because they lead to turnovers, they hurry throws, those sort of things. Exactly. It's not just about sacks. So I don't think he does. Personally, I do think that Matt Ryan is a statue of all statues. My dude's made out of marble. He ain't moving.
Yeah,
so
you're right about that.
I think this defensive line is going to really show. Sack Nation's going to show up.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah, if you see him take more than 2 steps in the pocket, that's a lot.
Yeah, my dude needs to go take an ibuprofen. Okay, I mean
he needs a B12 shot. He's like.
So I think we're going to see a lot of pressure and quite a few sacks this week from the defensive line. Okay, the second one, believe it or not, the Kansas City Chiefs will keep Jonathan Taylor under 100 rushing yards.
Go ahead, JP.
You know what? I can believe it. I mean, God, that's such a hard one because Hammy's good, but I can believe it. I can see it happening. We've really ramped up everything on our defensive line and even our linebackers for that matter. And I can almost see it happening. What do you think, Caleb?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say not. I just still feel a little bit concerned with this defensive line going against a team with this offense line that's really good and with a power running back. Maybe I'll probably be wrong, but I'm just not feeling that. He'll probably get over a little, maybe over 100 yards.
Okay.
That's how I feel. The missed tackles is what's scaring me.
Yeah.
I put this one in here. I think Jonathan Taylor is probably going to get over 100 rushing yards. And I think I brought this up, put this in here because I think Willie Gay, from a fan perspective, we don't realize how much he does in the running game. Yeah. And I think this week we're going to see what he does in the running game. So I think there's going to be some tackles that Willie Gay probably would have ran down and either slowed down the running back, forced him to bounce outside or bounce back inside, and he's not going to be there. So we're going to really see what this defense is capable of without Willie Gay. I know Nick Bolton is really the talk of the town and has been for a good reason. But I think Willie Gay does such a good job. He's so athletic and does so good in short passing game on those little flat routes and screens. And, Nick Bolton just isn't as good when it comes to covering those. So we'll see. Coming up against the Colts, Jonathan Taylor was the leading rusher last year in all the NFL, and we know how good he is. All you have to do is just watch a couple plays, and you're just blown away by his skills coming out of the backfield. So I think there's a really good chance that Jonathan Taylor is able to break the 100-yard mark. And
has anybody
all it takes
this season on us? No, nobody's gotten 100 on us yet.
Yeah, but we haven't faced really running back. Like downhill running backs, Austin Eckler is more of that passing back. And I honestly, that I'm in the flat. I'm going to be able to get 3rd and 1 or whatever, but I'm more throw me the screen, throw me the 2-yard, little arrow route or whatever. And I'm more of a passing guy. James Conner, I think got hurt in that first game, but the Arizona game was so blown out of proportion that it's hard to really judge. So this is the first running back that we're facing this year, and I think it's a good test, especially without Willie Gay. And I think that with such a talent, all he has to do is break one 60-yard touchdown, and he's just a couple more runs away from getting it. So I think he's gonna get it, get that 100 yards. My final one, believe it or not, Patrick Mahomes goes for 350 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I believe that.
I believe that too. I think anything's possible. Anything is possible, and I think
that's a minimum probably for him. I really do. I think it's probably his minimum in this game. So,
the reason that I bring this up is, like I talked about earlier, Gus Bradley is the defensive coordinator for the Colts, and as somebody who watched Bob Sutton for many years, and it's hard for some of the older guys to adjust to change their scheme. And at some point you can't. Like, it's not like you can just completely change your scheme in a week, So you are what you are. You have who you have playing, and I think 3 touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns from Mahomes is completely reasonable. 350, that's pushing it. If I was a betting man, which I live in Missouri, so I'm not, 350 is quite a bit, but 3 touchdowns, 350, I can absolutely see it happening. There's a good chance, especially if for some reason the Colts get the ball first, drive down, score a touchdown, Chiefs get a field goal on their first drive, and the Colts end up going like 14-3, something like that. I think it goes full pedal to the metal. And this game could just end up being like 42-17.
Could be.
Those are my.
I'm going to say this really quick. I could see this being a 400-yard game for Mahomes. I can see that. He's easily thrown for 400 yards in against a couple of teams that had really a better defense and a better defensive scheme. So I could see him having a 400-yard game, especially after last week and him only getting 235. I think he wants to redeem some of that. So I could almost see him getting close to 400 yards, if not 400 yards. So we'll just have to see. I mean, look, if Tua can do it, so can he.
God. Tua. Oh man, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, Tua. So anyway.
Okay. The last thing would just be score predictions. What do you guys got going on for the final score and of the game?
Now the Chiefs winning by 10, so 10, maybe even pushing over 10.5. I'm gonna say the Chiefs are gonna win 32 to 20. 32 to 20 is my final score prediction.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a little bit more than that. I'm gonna say 38-17
Okay.
is what I feel like it's gonna be.
Any reasoning behind that?
Because I think Mahomes is gonna have 4 touchdowns. I think he's gonna have 3 to 4
The
touchdowns.
math works out.
It does. And I think really, honestly, with our running backs and the way they played last week against a really stout defensive up front, I should say. They still ran the ball extremely well. So I am going to say, 38-17. I think you might even see a couple of, pounded in touchdowns too. So some goal line stances. But I will predict this: Jody Fortson gets a touchdown this week.
Is he going to get a perfect 1 yard one? That should have been a believe it or not. Jody Fortson gets
Yes.
a 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
My final score, I'm going to go 27-13, and either our kicker, I don't want to just predict failure, but I think the kicker, I don't think Butker's playing. So I think there's a chance of a missed PAT. So 27-13. I think the Colts are able to drive into field goal range, and they're only able to get 1 touchdown off of a Jonathan Taylor run. Other than that,
Amendola's been perfect on PAT.
I'm just saying it may happen.
That's fair.
But that's what I think. 27-13. It's a pretty easy lead, but we know the way Andy Reid is. He doesn't go full acceleration. If you're up by 10 in the third quarter, he's going to really work on clock management instead of trying to score points. So I don't think we see that same offensive explosion as we did in the Arizona game. Plus, this defense is better than Arizona.
Yeah, it is. I still think Andy has kind of learned his lesson from last week, I hope. And maybe he will go full throttle to the end of the game. The one thing that we talked about, and that's the last thing I'll say about it, is I don't want to, I don't want a Sean Payton game. Okay. I don't want to, have a coach that plays one of the worst teams in the league. And I'm not saying the Colts are, I'm just saying in general, and runs a score up 55-10. I don't want to see something like that, because that is just blatant disrespect.
Yeah, especially because I'm facing Patrick Mahomes in my fantasy, so I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you want the Chiefs to win? Or you want the fantasy team to win, Quentin?
Yeah,
First,
come on,
okay,
man.
all right.
Which one
You
do
don't
you
got
want
a
to
question.
happen?
All right, Chiefs come
That's
first.
why I don't like
but,
fantasy football. Man.
but if I were to choose between Patrick Mahomes throwing, 4 touchdown passes and getting the same points with like a Mecole Hardman sweep, I'm gonna choose the sweep. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be honest with the group. I'm an honest man, honest integrity. I would prefer if our scores come from
to get the number 1 seed.
I'm telling you.
No, what
Chiefs
if they can't
first.
get the sweep and there has to be Patrick Mahomes throws a touchdown?
Then I'm going to do it. I will.
Okay.
I've finished Final Four in all of my fantasy football leagues ever. And if that record has to break for the Chiefs to get the 1 seed, I'm dying on that sword. But in this hypothetical, if Mecole Hardman could get like a 40-yard sweep to score the touchdown instead, well, I'm going to go with that. I'm just being real.
Well, we will just have to see. Noon Sunday, we will have to see how this game turns out. But I think it's going to be, a little lopsided. I honestly thought the Chiefs were going to do a little bit better against the Chargers than they did.
They did, though.
They did, but I mean,
they did so good.
Score wise, I thought it was going to be a little bit more lopsided. But again, that was, the prevent falling in at the end of the game and letting.
I hate prevent defense.
Well, when the guy's literal left chest is like, broken.
Send a little bit of pressure. You don't have to
but
hit him.
I learned in our last podcast that I am the minority decision in this. I have the minority opinion in this, and you guys are against it. So I know that no matter what argument I make, I'm going to lose because there's 2 of you and 1 of me. So
we'll still hear you out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Maybe Twitter's got my back. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't look. My whole opinion on prevent defense is this, especially when you got a group of young guys. You want them to have the confidence in themselves. And I think they deserve the opportunity to prove to themselves that they can hold a team to under 10 points, under 13 points. And if you're allowing trash touchdowns at the end and prevent defense. That doesn't really give those guys the confidence that I think it should. Again, I'm not against I'm not against the respect factor that Andy has for other teams, but last week is a great example that we could have lost that game on the onside kick. So
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
I know, but regardless, we took the pedal off because Herbert may have played it up a little bit on that one little pass and then let the Chiefs just back off a little bit, and he went wide open straight into the end zone. So, and it wasn't a short pass. So to tell me that he couldn't take 2 steps and throw the ball 3 yards and then throws a dart into the end zone the way he did almost seemed like it was almost staged to a degree to let the defense back up just a tad. But regardless, I would like to see the defense, especially like a Jalen Watson and guys like that, be able to feel how good it is to hold somebody to a certain amount of points. And I'm not saying, beat them by 40, but I'm saying keep them low and let the guys feel good about themselves. That's just my opinion. But with that being said, I don't think we have anything else. We do have another giveaway starting next week. It's not going to start this week. We're waiting for something to come in, but we are going to do a giveaway starting next week. So everybody be prepared for that. And make sure you follow us at chiefsfocus.com. Make sure you give Quentin a follow. He puts out some great articles, pre and post game articles. He does a lot of tweeting now, finally. Zinger.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'm like, I'm like, my body thinks I'm like 57. So my social media skills are improving.
Yeah, they're getting better.
I'll put some polls out.
Yeah, there you go. Put some polls out.
I like the polls. I like to hear what people think.
Yeah, I did one every week for about a year straight, and people really liked them. I mean, they tend to they want to know, so they want to give their opinions, I should say. But anyway, we will see what happens on Sunday. Hopefully, we come out with a big fat win, another notch in Mahomes' belt, and keep that streak alive. And we will talk to you guys on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon.
Just read my article that'll come out tomorrow morning, and that's all pretty much done except the grammar checks. But I'm excited for Sunday, and then listen to our Sunday after the game podcast and my post game article.
That's it.
So
that's what we got to do. So with that being said, everybody have a great Red Friday. Enjoy it. Stay safe out there, and we will talk to you guys again on Sunday. Peace out, Chiefs Kingdom.
See you guys.